Welcome back to the Top 6 Show. Hit the like button, subscribe. If you haven't yet turned the bell notification button on, it's next to the sub button. Get that done so you don't miss any of our shows. You can also scan the QR code that's next to Kunle's beautiful head. That puts you into the notification group chat right above the crying Pep Guardiola that we've had made on AI. It's not really him crying. AI made it, but it's bloody good. AI is amazing. I should have asked for some scratches in the head and nose, really, to make it authentic. Like you cannot believe. We've got a great show for you tonight. We're discussing VAR. And I'm going to say it from the off. The one decision in recent weeks I think they've got spot on and the world's criticizing PGMOL over. I don't get it. We're talking about City being finished for the season. How do they turn this round? Liverpool being 11 points miraculously against all odds, according to a clip I'm going to play a bit later. Top of the league by 11 points. What will Arsenal's response be to this? We're talking a little bit more about the future of Arsenal. What will they do to respond? And we will be touching on Chelsea as well, who lose again in the EPL. We've got a brilliant panel for you. Tom Little's here, smiling and happy after the win yesterday. Kunle is looking a little miserable. We understand it, but they're still in the Champions League. There's still a chance. You know, as Lloyd, what is his name? Lloyd something from Dumb and Dumber. I can't remember his name. Harry Lloyd? No. You guys don't watch Dumb and Dumber?
You just say Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber. Yeah.
Lloyd. Is Lloyd something, right? You know, there's still a chance of that trophy from there. Nobbins is with us here to probably protect everything about Manchester City because he's a diehard. He's a proper blue nose. Henry's here supporting Arsenal and Tottenham at the same time. He loves it. Both ways is what we hear. And Will is in the house repping Real Madrid, who had a good win over the course of the weekend. I'm saying a good win. I just checked the score on an app. I have no idea how they performed, so I'm just going to say a good win and chance my arm. How is everyone? Everyone good and well?
Very well, thank you.
Couldn't be much better.
I'm dressed in black for a reason, but yeah. Cool.
Yeah, can't complain.
You know when they say if Carlsberg did perfect weekends or whatever, I think that's about as close as I could get this season. United and Everton take points off each other. City lose. Arsenal lose. We win. Couldn't be much. And Chelsea lose. And even though Chelsea have absolutely no horse in the race, it is funny seeing them lose.
And Forest.
Always.
Forest, well, yeah.
No one here to represent them.
Yeah, it's become a regular occurrence on the Top 6 Show that we cannot find Chelsea fans. They're hard, honestly. They're like unicorns. They're not like unicorns. They're like unicorn shit. Even rarer to rare to find, bruv. You can't find it anywhere.
When they were in the title race, mate, they were all over the street.
November, December, you were getting to a show.
Yeah,
bruv. When they were in that title race, I've never had so many people slipping into my DMs, bruv. My DMs were lighting up. Do you know what I'm saying? But yes, they're not here today. I don't know where they are, but big up to all the Chelsea fans, all 15 of you in the group chat. But none of them available tonight
15.
Again.
And said they're busy protesting.
Feed the Manx. Let them know it's listen. People saying feed them. There's still fruit. There's still soup. There's still fresh bread. I don't get the outrage. I don't get the outrage on that one. So there we go. Sean, no intro laughing at Arsenal fans. We haven't done an intro for the Top 6 Show for a few weeks, and I'm sorry I was out with family today. I apologize for having a life. I'm very sorry, Sean. But we haven't done an intro for the last few weeks on the Top 6 Show just because we've given it a little rest and it will come back again soon. Is Henry Terry's son? No. Maybe. I mean, he's not. I'll be honest with you. If I had a son as ugly as him, I'd adopt him. To be honest, that's what would happen. It's one of them. It's one of them. Henry in fairness, Henry did come second in a beauty competition once. He was the only one in it, but he came second. You know what I mean? He did well. He did well. He did. I love a terrible dad joke.
It's such a dad joke, yeah.
It is. Oh, I love a dad joke. Dad jokes. I feel like dad jokes are the best jokes because they're shit, but because they're so shit, they're funny.
They're timeless as well. Timeless.
Yeah. Yeah. Terry wouldn't know. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have given birth to him. That's true. Well, unless you believe in that. No, I didn't. I definitely, yeah, maybe. Arsenal season is dead as Martin. Oh, let's not talk about Martin Fowler dying. That actually broke my, as an EastEnders fanatic, R.I.P. Martin Arthur Fowler or Martin Albert Fowler, whatever his name is. I was sad when he went. I was truly sad when he went. I don't remember the birth because I was the same age as him, but yeah, 40 years the character's been in that great documentary EastEnders, and unfortunately he leaves this mortal coil. But there we go. I hit the like. Absolutely. Thank you, Luke Skywalker, encouraging everybody to do that. I appreciate it. And it's not funny. It's R.I.P. Martin. How did he die? I learned something watching it, though. He got crushed by a steel beam, but it was his legs. And I didn't realize that this thing called crush syndrome, which when someone's being crushed by something very heavy in an area that you typically wouldn't consider to be sort of fatal, basically the blood don't flow correctly, and there's a build-up of all these toxins. And as the item gets removed, these toxins flood the body, which create a massive problem for the kidneys, which often leads to cardiac arrest. And that's what happened. It was very sad to watch. Very sad to watch, indeed. Not as sad as watching Phil Mitchell have a breakdown. Oh, God. It was terrible. Anyway, no way. Hollyoaks is not better than EastEnders. Not a chance on your Nelly, mate. Maybe Corrie. I can take Corrie, but no, not Hollyoaks. Anyway. I want to start tonight. Were Everton hard done by VAR? Should it have been a penalty to Everton for the pull on Ashley Young? Who wants to take this away?
I don't think it is, but I don't know why they've overturned it because I don't think it's clear and obvious enough to say it isn't after giving it, because there's two separate pulls and there's a little bit of a contact on the foot and this, that, and the other. It shouldn't have been given, but once it's given, it's one of them ones where I don't think there's enough in it to overturn it. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy it was overturned because neither team won, so that's a win for me. But I can see why, off of the way decisions have went this season in regards to VAR intervention and then the line of high threshold and this, that, and the other, there's a bit of confusion about why that one was overturned when others haven't been, because, you know, there's enough there in two separate little shape pools, which, you know, fleeting is the buzzword of the season with those, but there's two separate ones of them, which I think give it enough reason to not be overturned after it's given. You know, it just adds to more of the confusion with VAR. I mean, why is that one clear and obvious, but others this season haven't been? What's the difference? Is it the way Ashley Young went down, trying to make the most of it? Is it, you know, was it really a fleeting contact? But when you look at the ones like Chelsea against West Ham earlier this season, that one, there was arguably less. There was arguably more hold time on it, but that was still classed that wasn't long enough. But this one was. It's all very confusing. And look, when I saw it first, I didn't think it was. But the moment it's given, I don't see how you can overturn it based on the rules. So
what was the official rule why it wasn't given?
Yeah, what is the rule?
What was the official?
So they haven't, and this is why when people are saying, I can't understand why the intervention has happened, that for me is a premature statement, because we don't know what the penalty was given for. All we do know is that the referee gave it for a foul by Maguire. So when I listen to most of the professional pundits, like Match of the Day did a big piece on it where Shearer went mad, all he kept on talking about was De Ligt's pulls, and then said, I don't get why VAR's got involved. Well, that's because you think De Ligt's committed the foul, but the referee gave a foul by Maguire. By that definition alone, VAR has got to intervene because it's mistaken identity, which is part of their protocol. But what we don't know yet, no one does. We don't know why the penalty was given. My gut feeling is I think the referee believes Maguire trips Ashley Young by the way he goes down, because nobody falls that way when your shirt gets pulled. So for me, and if we hear the audio on this in a few weeks and it isn't that, we'll have another conversation. But for me, I think he feels there was a trip. Legs catch each other. And if they thinks it's a trip or their legs have collided, and then VAR has looked at it and gone 0 leg contact, fleeting or slight pulls on the shirt, then it makes sense to me why they've intervened, as an example. I do agree that if they think there's a shirt pull and then they've reviewed it and gone, there is a shirt pull and we're going to change our minds, that would be very strange. That would be very, very strange indeed, personally, for me. But I also think it would be strange to give the penalty in the first place for a slight pull, because when have you seen? We haven't seen any of them given all season. So that in my own mind is weird that they would give it for a very slight, because he gave it for Maguire's foul. So forget what De Ligt's done. Referee didn't give it for that reason. Maguire literally grabs hold of the arm for about half a second, maybe. And all season they haven't given those. So yeah, that's why it's hard, I think, to judge in terms of when people are saying there's no clear and obvious error. How does anyone know that if we don't know why the original decision was
It would have
given?
been good if that thing they had in the Carabao Cup semi-finals where the referee says what the decision was overturned for, or where VAR intervened, if that was used now for that game, and he went, VAR, Ashley Young I thought there was a trip on Ashley Young by Maguire. Reviewing the footage, there wasn't, so no penalty. That would have made a lot of sense. Right now, we're all going, we don't even know what the foul was for. All we know is it involved Maguire and Young. We don't know if it was, he thought there was a trip. We don't know if he thought it was the pull. We have no idea. We're all just throwing stuff into the wind and trying to figure it out. Yeah. Whereas the thing that they brought in for the Carabao Cup semi-final as a trial, which worked, by the way, because it got used in the Newcastle Arsenal game for the offside, and it was worked. They made it very clear who was offside and everything. That to me was a successful trial. So why are we not bringing it in to the Premier League? So many things that they said they were going to bring in to help the officials this year. Semi-automated offside. Don't know where that is. Don't know where that's gone, but we could have done with that this season. Stuff like this to help clear it up to the fans, because that was one of the big things Hardware's been saying on these stupid monthly shows. We want to make sure that the fans know what's going on. We want to make sure the fans know what's going on. Well, when you finally figure out a way to tell the fans what's going on, implement it. Don't just leave it in the Carabao Cup, which has one game left this season. We won't hear it again after March. What are we supposed to...
Yeah.
And then what we have to wait.
Yeah, but they're never going to implement it after it works in one Carabao Cup. They should have. I guess they should have tested it earlier. But
they have been because you don't bring it into the Carabao Cup if you haven't tested it beforehand.
Yeah, but they're never going to
been doing it through multiple phases
towards the end of the season, though.
They could do that. To be fair, like they did it with VAR, like in the season Liverpool won the Champions League. Like VAR wasn't introduced that season early on, and then it was by like the time it was the City Spurs game, if memory serves.
Unless I'm misremembering. It was introduced in the knockouts. So, I don't see why. It's not like we're bringing in an entirely new technology. The semi-automated offside has more of a standing for that. It can't be brought in mid-season. This is just the referee standing there going, I need to change the decision.
Yeah, I think understanding what he gave and why they've overturned it. I think we've all been calling for that since VAR was introduced, because it leaves less ambiguity. Question about, I'm going to go to Will on this. Marcy here says, if your shirt is pulled, you fall backwards, not forward. Do you feel that the dive, because it clearly was, do you feel the dive from Ashley Young is somewhat being overlooked in this circumstance?
Well, I feel like the dives just in football in general are always being like overlooked. I feel like, wasn't there supposed to be a rule where if you dive, then shouldn't you be getting booked? Right? Like, is that not a thing? Or am I just,
I think it's because
that?
They can only really give that if there's like absolutely no contact. Whereas if there's technically contact, the player would argue that it's not a dive, it's I'm just helping the referee make a decision. I don't agree with that, but that might be the
But you think there's a bit of a lack of consistency with when they pick and choose with the simulation?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. I don't know if there's a right answer, but like Young's been like that move that he does, whatever you want to call it, a dive, a flop. He's been doing that since he was at Aston Villa. So I wonder how much of of that background is playing a part to, like, is even at a subconscious level, are the refs going, hang on, he's been playing this, he's been doing this trick for 15 years, thereabouts. So yeah, it's a flop, isn't it?
Yeah. Wait, is that a rule? Is that a rule? What James Rule just said? You can't give yellows from VAR. Is that actually a rule?
So it isn't. It isn't. So you can give a yellow if you're overturning a penalty decision. So if a player dives for a penalty, but you give the penalty in real time, you review it and say it was a dive, you can stop the penalty and then book for the simulation, because you're essentially the reason you've changed that decision is for forced simulation. And I don't think this one was necessarily forced simulation. I just don't think the dive helps him. The way you pull someone's shirt, no one's legs do that. So
Yeah.
and the thing is, if you do that pull when he doesn't dive, the penalty wouldn't have been given in the first place. And this wouldn't even be a talking point. It's his dive that makes everybody think it's a penalty, which it seems everyone in the mainstream media didn't want to speak about it. Yeah, Will, what do you make of it? Do you feel United got lucky, or was the correct decision attained in your opinion?
Nah, well, so in my opinion, I think that it was the right call to not, the thing is, bro, because like again, it's kind of speaking on like the diving stuff. I feel like they should be booked anytime it's so blatantly obvious, because you can dive and make it look realistic. And it's like you said, he pulls his shirt, but like, he kind of like falls like forward. It's like his like legs locked or something, and he just like fell. You'd have thought that he got shot or something. I think yeah, no, like not giving the pen, like that was the right call, in my opinion. And I just think that the way that you solve it is by just booking it. Anytime you see somebody that is like acting like weird, like after a simple foul, if they've been pulled or pushed or whatever, any overstimulation, I feel like it just should be booked like automatically. And then we're not even having these talks right now about if it was a pen or if it wasn't. That's how I view it. Like once you dive, it should automatically not be a penalty.
Ashley Young's been doing this for like I think it was the game against Arsenal all those years ago where he had 2 dives in the same game and they were both penalties and they were both arguably not penalties. And now we're sitting here 10 years later and he's still doing the same theatrical movements and there's still no punishment. Like if VAR reviewed that and said it's a clear dive, like Will just said, and they went out and booked him, that sends a statement to the rest of the league that you can't get away with this.
Yeah.
Like it's never a penalty. You do not jump forward with your legs in the air from a shirt pull. It's ridiculous. But he'll get away with it, and it'll be another decision that just.
Do you remember in the Manchester Derby, with that thing with Højlund and like Kyle Walker, right?
Yeah. Højlund and Rodri.
Was it right?
Oh, do you mean when Højlund was running through and mate, yeah, and yes.
Like Kyle Walker, like, so it was the game like right after where you remember when Højlund, he went on IG and wrote like the poem, like something about like mocking how Kyle Walker dove or something like that. Like you guys know what I'm talking about, right? So like,
yeah.
He nudged him in the head, didn't he? And he fell back.
Yeah, like were they both booked for that altercation? Because Kyle Walker clearly dove. I know you guys know like what I'm talking about. I think
I think they were both booked.
Yeah, see, so like again, like that's where it's like
that wasn't for the dive though. That was for like arguing, I think.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but like Kyle Walker should have got booked for the dive, like because like how he fell is like kind of ridiculous. Like, bro, like you wouldn't naturally fall like that. So I was kind of bringing it up in terms of just like, yeah, it's just like no consistency. Because again, like attackers are always going to try and get an advantage in the box. Like once an attacker thinks that they've been touched, they're going to fall and they're going to make it very dramatic so that the referee has to like go look at it or whatever. And then I think once VAR reviews it, because it always looks worse when you go and check it, because now it's clear that you just dove or you like overstimulated how you're supposed to fall. I feel like that's just automatically just wipe it out.
Around like 7, I don't know if anyone can remember this or if I'm making this up. I'm sure like around 7 or 8 years ago, the like referees had like an initiative for like a season where it was something like there will be like a review after every game, and if like they decide a player has dived in the game, then you'll get a retrospective, you'll get banned for like the next game or two. I don't know if anyone can remember that, but that was implemented for like, if memory serves, like a season, and it's not really, unless I'm mistaken, it's not. I've not really seen it since. I'd bring that back.
Yeah, that certainly did come in. I remember. I don't know when it was, but I remember. I remember that coming into the game, and there's been multiple elements like that for me. I will say though about this situation, I get why Everton fans are upset and angry. For me, the coverage by the media, because I know for a fact, and I'm sorry to rant about this, but I can't help it because it's my club, and we're crap, and we've been scrutinized loads recently, and a lot of it is deserved. But I've seen penalties not given to Man United this season and last season. I've not seen 48 hours of debates had about them. This idea of, well, they should go with the referee's call, I think it's the biggest load of baloney in the game. Said it about other clubs and their bad decisions too. So this isn't a bias thing. No, we should be getting the correct decision. All season long, we have been briefed by the PGMOL and Premier League directly that fleeting pulls, so pulls on shirts or arms that last for split seconds, are not sustained. Because they're not sustained pulls, they're not penalties. So whatever the referee gives in real time, why should Man United be the only team punished this season for a fleeting pull when everybody else has got away with it? I don't care how selfish that sounds. It's a rhetorical question. I don't need an answer because I know if everyone's being honest, they're like, well, they shouldn't, but they shouldn't be. Objectively speaking, why should we be the only team that suffers a penalty like that? The mainstream media meltdown on this, because at the beginning, most people not commentating, but like a lot of the reactions on the BBC and others, they went, well, no, you can't be giving penalties for this. The rhetoric suddenly changed. But I'm just going to put up on the screen a few penalties that haven't gone Man United's way for pulls, drag downs, etc. And I did not see 48 hours of coverage on this like Everton have got. And that's the bit for me that I'm really disappointed in. There's been a precedent set all year that fleeting pulls are not penalties. Today on Ref Watch, nobody mentioned it. All the journalists doing think pieces, not mentioning it. All the ex-referees have defended the PGMOL all year for fleeting pulls, haven't mentioned it. I didn't see 48 hours of debates about this foul where his legs were wrapped around Højlund and they took him down. Barely got a mention. How about this drag down by Gabriel on Højlund in a game last season? Far more of a long-standing pull. And we mentioned the Manchester derby earlier. Højlund conceded a penalty for holding on to Rodri in that game. A few moments later, he's running through on goal. John Stones grabs his shoulder, pulls him back, and he falls to the ground. And everybody said, not enough of a pull to make him fall down. PGMOL agreed with it. The pundits all agreed with it. Man United rightfully have a penalty overturned, as far as I can see, because it was nowhere near enough contact to make him... Listen, there's nowhere near enough contact to make him go down. I believe those fleeting pulls in the box to stop a player running should be penalties, by the way. What I'm talking about is, though, the fact that they've made a rule and set a precedent that it's not one. So it doesn't matter if I think that rule's wrong. We should be assessing as fans the implementation of the rules. The professional pundits aren't sitting there and saying referees made the right decision, but the rule's bad. They're saying it is a penalty. So what we're essentially saying is that because it's Man United, we want the referees to break the rules that they have set, or the Premier League have set, because it's Man United. I've never seen this coverage towards us if we concede, if we don't get a penalty that maybe we deserved. And I'm a bit flabbergasted by the mainstream media's coverage of this. I think it is an absolute sham that they are asking the PGMOL and the referees to break the protocols and to break the law of the game that has been set, that they have briefed all the clubs on, that they've implemented all year. That, for me, is the strangest part of all of this. They have said that fleeting pulls are not penalties. And I can guarantee you this. Wednesday night when we play Ipswich, if one of our players is pulled for a split second in the box and goes down, I can guarantee you that Alan Shearer, I can guarantee you that John Cross from the Mirror, Martin Ziegler from the Times, I guarantee you there's no debates online about it. I'll make a £1,000 bet with anyone on this panel now. If it happens in any of our next games, I guarantee there isn't a 48-hour debate about Man United getting that penalty. We'll get the same. By the way, when this is the other way around and a Man United team feel like they've been screwed, or more so Arsenal fans are saying VAR was terrible, these same pundits say, shut up moaning and keep your club accountable. 48 hours of slagging off the PGMOL. If it's certain other clubs, they're told to shut up. That's the bit about this that annoyed me more than anything. Everybody is speaking out the other side of their mouths, and I can guarantee it. If any of our players get pulled in the box in our next game, our game at the weekend, there will not be 48-hour, wall-to-wall, back page to back page fucking coverage of this situation. I guarantee it. As sure as the sun will rise in the morning, this is a Manchester United media agenda 110,000%. It just is. This stinks to high heavens to me. I know I sound a little bit like a gal, but I can't help it. I've got to get it. I've got to get it off my...
It's good to see you taking it well.
No, I've taken it awfully. It's just by the way, not from Everton fans. Everton fans that think they've been robbed, I can handle that. They're upset they didn't win the game. They thought they had a penalty. I understand it. But it's the duplicity in the media 1 week telling Arsenal, forget the PGMOL. Telling Nottingham Forest they're a disgrace for writing a letter to the PGMOL. Telling Wolves managers to stop moaning when they conceded 2 penalties 2 weeks running for the opponents kicking the fucking floor. Kicking off at Liverpool for releasing a statement to the press when they broke the procedures, when they broke the protocol. What they're asking for in their punditry is to break the season-long protocol that fleeting pulls are not penalties. These men are fucking hypocrites when it suits them best because slagging off Man United makes them money. So yeah, I haven't taken it well because I get sick to my back teeth of the mainstream media and the mainstream pundits failing to educate football fans, the paying fans that we pay for most of them, and even the BBC we pay for with our fucking taxes. They're not telling people the truth. They're bullshitting and they're lying. And one of the journalists blocked me who spoke about it today. And I messaged her again, you were asking yesterday for what do you want the talking points on this incident to be. Me and many other Man United fans said, can you mention fleeting pulls and have a debate? Didn't mention it. So we added her today, blocked. It's an agenda, bruv. It's a fucking agenda. Anyway, I'm done talking about it now. Back to you guys.
When's the last time Man United actually had a good bit of press, like a good bit of PR? Because it doesn't matter if it's a good decision goes your way or a bad decision. It's the media manipulate things to look at as if Man United are just this dark cloud over the Premier League. Like that decision is the correct decision for a penalty, but we've been talking about this for 2 days now. If the same thing happens in the Tottenham game, let's say Tottenham, the same thing happens from Tottenham's perspective. One of our players goes down. By the Thursday morning, no one will give a shit about that game. But when it's United Terry, I think you're absolutely bang on the money. I've just scrolled through Twitter and just typed in Man United, and the amount of the Daily Mail, the Independent, the Sun, everything is like daggers out for United. Like
I can guarantee you
in the league.
I can guarantee you, Henry, if we win a penalty that's like that, the narrative wouldn't be well done, refs. It would be diving Man United, soft penalty, cheats. And if it got overturned, you'll see the completely opposite reaction of this is what VAR is for, to stop these non-penalties being penalties. I know it. We saw last season, we conceded a goal against Palace that was offside. Player standing directly in front of Onana. Ball shot, Onana has to move out of his way. Goal goes in. They win the match. There wasn't a single bit of coverage about that decision at all. About 3 weeks later, we scored one that was like it. And it was ruled out. And all I saw everywhere was correct decision. This is the brilliant implementation of VAR. This is why it came in. And on 3 weeks ago, we conceded one that was the same, and you didn't call it out as a mistake. That, for me, as a United fan, that's where I get annoyed. Not so much with the PGMOL for making the mistake, but the duplicity and the coverage of it is crazy. And look, Man United are in the pitch right now, but even when we're at the top, we still get that same type of coverage. I'm telling you, it's different for us. It is absolutely different in the way we're covered when it comes to refereeing decisions. It's crazy to me, personally. Crazy. Again, I don't think the PGMOL has a conspiracy against this. I'm not saying that. I think the media does, and I don't think that's an unfair thing to say. Henry, because keeping United down is their cash cow. Oh, there's
it drives clicks, doesn't it?
Well, because rival fans believe everything that's written about us. You know, there's a story that went out in the Sun today. I'm seeing Liverpool fans share stories from the Sun today, and bantering United over it, and it always shudders me to my core that they would, the desperation to attack Man United would make people do that. It's crazy to me. Absolutely crazy in my personal opinion. The media still worship United. They never talk about you. I mean, again, if you believe that, you're just a fool. You're just a fool if you believe that. There we go. Some ask Terry, why is Arsenal will respond in the caption? Well, you'll find that out when we get to the Arsenal section of the show. Wait and be patient. That's what you got to do. Louis here says, wait, what? United fans, we are a big club in the world, never ignored. United fans, why do you keep talking about us? But that's not what was said, is it? Again, that's a nice attempt at banter, but that's not what I said, is it? I've called out the duplicity in the conversation here. Rasmus Højlund gets pulled down. No, he can't be given penalties for that. Ashley Young gets a tug this hard on his shirt, dives, complete dive. No way should that not be a penalty. It's duplicity. If you don't want to call it out, you don't want to call it out. I actually hope every single person who thinks it's a penalty concedes one this week like it. I want to see you all go, yeah, Stonewaller. I want to fucking see you all say Stonewall penalty. You lying mugs. Simple as that for me. Moving on from Man United and that penalty decision because it triggered me. Chelsea again lose. Maybe a slightly better performance. What's going wrong, Will? Why can't Chelsea get a positive result?
Why'd you come to me first? Nah, I'm just joking.
You're the Chelsea rep.
Why'd you come to me, bro? Look, I have no idea. Like Chelsea just at the moment, bro, they just look discombobulated, bro. Like, I don't even know if that's a proper word, but they just look confused. Like the goalkeeper for that second goal, the fact that he wasn't able to get a good hand on that. I mean, again, it's kind of like the same thing that we're saying basically every single time Chelsea lose. Like, we know what the issues are in that team, right? Their defense is not that good. The goalkeeper situation is not that good. And they don't have anybody aside from Cole Palmer up front that is lethal in the final third. So if Cole Palmer's not firing, if he's on a little bad run of form, which he is at the moment in terms of he's not performing at the level that we all expect him to, then they have necessarily, there's nothing really for them to do. I mean, you could probably blame it on Maresca. I saw that Reece James, he was in midfield. I don't really think that he looked that good. I think Marcus Rashford coming off the bench, instant impact. I mean, he actually looks pretty decent. Asensio scoring a brace. I don't know, man. Like Chelsea, they seem like they're just in a free fall. And again, I think that you kind of have to question what the direction of the club is, because a lot of these issues could have been addressed in the January window. And instead of doing that, their board still went for young, unproven players. And now they're in this situation where it doesn't even look like top four is a guarantee for them at the moment. So, yeah, it's not looking good for Chelsea right now, bro. And then with all the injuries that they have.
Focus has to be on the manager, though. That's where the focus has to be. I think that we need to take a long, hard look at the start of the season and question how much of that was down to Maresca and how much of that was down to the players carrying over what Poch had done at the back end of last season. Because people forget, Pochettino in the second half of the season with Chelsea, they were the third best team in the league statistically. They finished above us in a second half of the season league table type thing, which people do. They had a very good second half of the season. Players had finally clicked. They'd finally understood the system. Players had come back from injury. They were on board. They were all singing from the same hymn sheet for the first time in the season. But they sack him. Okay. And then you bring in Maresca. I don't think that those Chelsea players or the Chelsea team, should I say, were playing Maresca ball straight away or were fully, riding off the Maresca wave straight away. I think they were still riding off what Pochettino had done for the past year. But then that, as is going to happen, when that voice is not there, eventually that wave fades away. It goes away, which happened around about December time. And that's where you look at the manager that's in place now, Enzo Maresca. How can you fix this? How can you put your imprint on the team? And the moment it's been on him, Chelsea have been the most inconsistent team in the Premier League. Inconsistent might actually be kind. They've been consistently bad is probably the correct term to use. Certain players have not turned up and shown the levels. Yeah, it was gonna. The inconsistency was always gonna happen because they're a young team, and when you have young players, they are inconsistent. When you have a team full of them, your team is going to be inconsistent. But the manager has to step in at a point and do the smart thing, change a couple things around, maybe drop the line 5 yards, get a little bit of confidence back in the team, because that's what young players need. They need the confidence, and then they go again.
I think the fixtures they've got now with Southampton, Leicester, Copenhagen, home and away in the Conference League, that is surely a run of fixtures Chelsea should be looking at going, right, that's 12 points there. They should dispatch of Copenhagen by a minimum of 5 goals over 2 legs. They'll beat Southampton and Leicester, and then it's what are they going to do after that? Because I think they're a confident team.
I think you're doing a bit too much. They can't look past their next game right now, bro. All that run of games is ridiculous. For
yeah, but if they lose to Southampton at the Bridge, then major questions got to be asked about Maresca.
I don't think they should. I don't think they should, because I don't blame Maresca for any of this personally. Like Chelsea went from 12. For me, let me learn. Like Chelsea went from 12 to 6 they sacked their manager, and they got a worse manager in. Like, what was always going to happen? This, like, we talked about Maresca not being ready for a high pressure job like this, but Chelsea thought they were going to give it to him. They've left him with a young team with no guys that inspire the dressing room. So when they're in the deep darks of form, there's no one to lift them up and get them out, or there's not that special moment in the game that gets them through, that gets them that 3 points. It was inevitable what's happening right now. It was just they picked them up, they carried the wave at the start of the season, and then this was always going to happen. Chelsea fans obviously hoped that their board would bail them out with money like they've been used to over the few years, but it didn't happen. Like, at the end of the day, this was always coming. I don't know how they get out of this rut. Can they finish in the top 5? Potentially. Definitely not the top 4, but they can potentially finish in the top 5. But I don't think they should look past their next game at this point. And they need to find a solution to reawaken.
They can't look past the next game. They've got 2 wins from 10 in the league.
Brother, exactly.
Yeah, but the fixtures they've got coming up, do you not think they can get a run together going into that Arsenal game?
Henry,
of course they can. They
played.
Like
they had the run of Everton away, Fulham at home, Ipswich
Everton away.
Was
that Moyes or was that Dyche?
That was Dyche. Everton. That run of 4 games, they should have picked up at least 9 points. They picked up 2.
If they don't get Champions League football, if you're like one of those like elite young players, do you like give it another year, or do you start asking questions, or is that too reactive?
Is there any players you're particularly talking about, Robin?
I think
just like generally, because they've got a lot of very good young players. Like the whole squad is full of good young players.
Got to be sitting there thinking, okay, this is 3 years under this Clear Lake project, and if they finish outside the top 4 and don't win the Conference League, and then sack Maresca, that's another manager they're going through. I know he's on this death row contract where he's signed up until 2032, but surely he's got to be sitting there looking around going, I'm betting this. Because if you take Palmer out of this Chelsea side right now, and I know you can say that if you take Salah out of Liverpool, etc., but look, where would Chelsea be right now without Cole Palmer?
Has Cole Palmer been there 3 years already? I thought this was only
3 years under this new takeover.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I was about to say, I swear this is only like his second season at Chelsea.
For this project under Clear Lake to be out of the Champions League for 3 years, and if they don't win the Conference League and they finish outside the Champions League positions again,
then you have to sack
them finishing 6th or 7th. So these players that have signed these death row contracts have got to be thinking, if another manager comes in, at what point does this start to click and things start going in the right direction?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of do agree in terms of, like maybe some of these players will look around and say, maybe we should leave, because we all know like the contract length is crazy, but to be honest, it doesn't really mean anything, because if a player wants to leave, yes, the club, they technically do have the power, but you're not going to keep a player that's forcing a move, right? So yeah, I feel like that is definitely something that Chelsea have to worry about. And I think, it's like what Henry just said. If they don't win the Conference League, then you would have to sack Maresca, because like that should be a trophy that you automatically are winning. Like they shouldn't even necessarily be celebrating winning that trophy, because the competition.
Well, do you think if they sack the manager, that does more bad than good for Chelsea?
No, nah.
You think?
Nah.
Yeah?
I mean, like I don't really blame Maresca too much. I think that his style of football does suit the team, right? Like that possession kind of like build up, like the slow build up. I mean, kind of football, like that works because they do have a lot of technical players who are good with the ball at their feet. I more so blame the board, right? I just, because it's not Maresca that's not out there making the signings that are needed. It's not Maresca that isn't getting things done off the pitch for them to improve on the pitch. So I get the criticism for Maresca, but I don't think he's the biggest issue.
They finished 6th with Poch, and Maresca's a worse manager, so I don't get why.
But how can you say that Maresca's a worse manager when they first brought him in? Because he could have done like.
No, but he was though. He was a championship manager, and Poch had some experience in multiple leagues. He'd worked on a small budget. He's got the team ticking towards the end of the season. Yeah, some of the Chelsea fans believe that going from 12th to 4th was more realistic, which is crazy, but it is what it is. And then they sacked the manager, and we're here now. This is a result of Chelsea fans having too much high standards and not realizing you did make progress under Poch. I said that at the end of the season. If Chelsea sacked Poch, they're definitely not getting to top 4. Even if they
So-
kept
so
Poch,
what
I
do
was
they do?
thinking, I'm not
Keep
sure.
Maresca?
They should have kept Poch. They have to. I don't know. I kind of think they have to. The kind of same thing we were saying about United last week. They kind of have to go with it now because
No,
they
they
got rid
don't.
of a
Completely
manager.
different
It-
situation. Like
It's
they're
different, but they've sacked a manager after he finished 6th, right? And the team were clearly on a higher momentum at the end of the season. And now they've got this new man in. Like, what are they just going to keep chopping and changing every year and going again? They've got to stick with some exactly.
But you
But
can keep top.
They've got
but
to
you can.
stick with some
Will,
pain
Will,
and suffering for a period of time. And that's the reality.
they want this project to go, they cannot keep chopping and changing managers because
Yeah.
young players do not develop. If every year they've got a new manager, they don't develop. They'll very
new
few
style
will
of
hit
play.
their potential. They've got a new style of play every year. They've got a new manager who wants new things out of them. What young
Every
players
year,
need
bro.
to develop well is a stable environment. I don't think Maresca is the right man for Chelsea. I said that to start the season.
For
I don't.
sure.
I don't think.
It was
I
their
don't think he's the
mistake.
guy long term. I think Chelsea should be looking at moving him on. And there's 2 top managers in the Premier League, Thomas Frank and Donny Iraola. They are managers you can build a project around. They are managers who've shown they can develop young talent. They
So
are
you
managers
attack
who've shown
Maresca then?
they are. I would, yeah.
So then that's what I'm saying. Like, if he's not working,
But-
then you got to sack
but-
him.
But what can't happen is
Yeah.
Chelsea go back to what they used to do under Abramovich, which is sack a manager every year or 2. Because we're not at the
Well,
point where
I
we think we
think-
need to
I
be.
But
think
that's what made them so successful, though.
Yes,
like
but I-
that
I
But they
think-
don't
model.
have that.
still-
But they don't have that level of
Yeah.
squad now.
I will, and this is where I think. Sorry, I get where you're coming from, Will.
Yeah.
They go out this summer and they buy a world-class goalkeeper, a world-class centre-back, a world-class midfielder, and a world-class striker. Then maybe they can start sacking a manager every year. There are some Chelsea fans that think they're not going to do that. They're going to continue buying young players or players that need development. They're happy to come in on 50, 60, 80, 90, 100 grand a week. No one that wants to be paid above 150. If everyone they're buying for their first team is still going to be young, and what they're kind of banking on is as the players they bought 2 or 3 years ago turn 23, 24, 25, they will mature into that experience spine, which appears to be the part of the model they're going for. I don't think can someone show me the blueprint for how you win Prems, how you win Champions Leagues in that model? I don't know if there is one, and it feels like Chelsea are trying something new, but those young players will need an element of continuity to become good enough to be that spine. So I almost feel like when it comes to this Chelsea debate, there's points that they overlap a little bit, but they're not. We're not on the same page. I think you're right. If they go out and spend 300 million this summer on a really good core to add to this team, to bolster what they've got, you bring in another world-class midfielder next to Caicedo, you had a world-class striker ahead of
26-year-old
Palmer.
minimum.
Yeah, 26, 27. You give them that core, then I think you're right. You can look at it and go, well, now go and win a league title. And if a manager ends up in 7th by the end of the season, you sack him because you've got that core. I don't think you can do that if this summer they buy 8 more players and the oldest is 22 years old. And so
Yeah.
I think.
But then that's the thing, though,
I think
Terry.
that's where the trade-off is there, which is why I think a lot of Chelsea fans are starting to question the project, because how long is too long to build a team that can win a Premier League? I suppose that's the question here more than anything.
Well, yeah, because like what you're saying is right in terms of what is the project, because the squad that they have now, they don't need any more young players that are unproven, right?
Yes.
They need to start signing some more proven talent, like you said, like maybe like a world-class striker, midfielder, goalkeeper. But I think this is why Maresca shouldn't be the one to blame, because he's not necessarily been given all the tools that he would need to compete at the top, like every single week in terms of like, because I know that they have the Conference League, but you still have to rotate the squad a bit. So what I'm saying is, I just think that Chelsea, it looks like, in my opinion, actions speak louder than words. Like the board's going to tell you that they want to compete, they want to win trophies, but their actions are showing that they're just more interested in buying and developing talent. And it's like I said last week, I think on just this same show, I think Chelsea are going to become a selling club, depending on what they do this summer. If they don't address the areas that are needed with competent, proven players, then I think that they are going to be looked at as a team that's just trying to cash in on a lot of these players that they're buying.
I agree with
Yeah.
what you said to a point. Yes, they didn't give them the tools to win a Premier League this year. They didn't. Chelsea do not have a Premier League winning team. But Chelsea have a team that is good enough to finish in the top 4. especially when the likes of Manchester City are off the boil this badly. If he finishes lower than Pochettino did, I'm sorry, that job's untenable. How can you regress? If you regress in your project, you cannot keep that job because the Palmer has not gotten better.
I was just going to say this.
What players can we sit here and say they have been an improvement this season?
Yep, facts.
But this is the thing about continuity. If you go back 5-6 years ago, barring Mason Greenwood for different circumstances, but there was a young Rashford that there was a lot of talent in. There was Martial as an example. We had this group of young players at our football club, and there was this, how good could they become? One of the biggest issues, put anything you think of those players aside, going from LVG to Jose Mourinho to Oli to Ragnick to Ten Hag, no fixed style. Every time a manager changed, the system, the training changed, the culture at the club changed. 1 minute you can sit in the canteen with all the squads, then you can't. Then you're made to train this way, then you're made to run more. Then there's a manager with his arm around his shoulder. The next guy's abusing you. The next guy's doing X, Y, and Z. There's no transfer strategy. You're going to be the guy. You're going to be the main guy. 2 days to go in the window. Oh, we bought this dude. Oh, why'd you buy him? Shirt sales. You ruin players. And I'm not saying Chelsea are doing all those things. I'm not saying it's identical. But continuity is so important for these young players to develop, you know? And I think for me, that's something that I would be concerned about as a Chelsea fan, as that they started this season off. And I looked at it and thought, yeah, this project's coming alive now. But the drop off in the last few months, the fact they didn't go out in January and buy some, it's as clear as the nose on the end of my face. In January, they needed some experience. And all they tried to do was get Garnacho, who himself needs loads of development. That, for me, is just a red flag. Doesn't mean 100% the project's going to fail, but I think it's a red flag. There's a few comments here I want to put up. Sorry, we'll come to these in a minute. It says, a Chelsea fan here, this is James. He says, we're getting things wrong. These owners are not desperate to win. They just want to be there or thereabouts and to be able to sell players and make profit. And there's a lot of Chelsea fans in the online spaces now that think they actually could cash in on like someone like Cole Palmer this summer if a club comes in and goes, there's 90, there's 80, there's 100 million pounds. There's many that think they could just go, look at that. That's making us double our money. We can put that into the profit column. And if that's true, I mean, what does that, if they end up selling someone like him this summer, surely that would erode any support of this project being about winning league titles.
Well, yeah, because then that would just make you a very bougie looking Dortmund. Just you wear blue instead of yellow. Like, and I think, again, what Chelsea do this summer, that's going to tell us a lot about what they actually are trying to do with whatever this project is. Because, again, it's like what Tom said. Their team is very talented, right? They should be finishing top 4. They have the pieces there. They just need maybe 2 or 3 more players that can take them to that next level. So if they don't sign 2 or 3 players that are in positions that they need, that do elevate their squad, then you should not support the new ownership and whatever they're doing in terms of this project.
Yeah.
Terry, could you put up JJ's comment that says Kunle, so what Chelsea sack? You see that?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is probably one of the major issues at Chelsea, because I think a lot of the fan base that are vocal online think there's a quick fix to this Chelsea thing, and there really isn't now. There's no quick fix now.
The only fix is time.
Yeah, literally, you just gotta wait. The fact that you've brought in this championship manager to spearhead this project, that was the backward step that you took initially. He weren't ready for this, and now there's no quick fix for the Chelsea situation. There's not, let's sign a few players in the summer, let's change the manager. There's no quick answer that gets you lot back challenging. You've literally got to kind of strip some things back and make a decision. What direction do you lot want to take? There's going to be some pain and suffering in that direction, and you lot just got to sit in it, and then you go from there. It's not about you're not Arsenal mediocre and all that stuff. It's nothing to do with all that.
I agree. Whatever direction they're going, time is probably going to be needed. And Richard here says waffle show. I think because you think that you've not listened by the next comment. He says only project builders think you have to stick with something, but nobody else on here has said they have to stick with what they're doing. The point we're making is that whether or not you stick with this manager depends upon what your project is. And by the way, all clubs have projects. Man City are winners. They have a project. Real Madrid are winners. They have a project. They have a plan of action that probably lasts 3 to 4 seasons at a time that they add onto who they're going to approach. What manager are we going to bring in? Shortlist. There's always a project, a process, a whatever you want to call it, a phase list at every single club. It exists. Trust me. The most successful, down to the least successful, they all have similar protocols to follow. Like every business has a business plan to some degree. What we're debating here, and maybe because I don't know what's going on today, I don't know what, maybe you're not listening right. We're talking about whether or not you stick or twist. And I think continually changing managers, if your project is to buy young and develop them, and you change styles, it's not even changing the styles per se, changing the voice, changing the approach. You may not create that continuity, because I can't think of many clubs that have developed a really good young group that have grown up together where there is so much chopping and changing on a regular basis. And if people have got those examples, I'm not saying they 100% don't exist. If you're going to challenge it, you've got to provide those examples. You can't just say, well, Madrid sack managers and they're successful. Madrid's approach isn't what Chelsea are trying to do. So you can't use that as a case in point. You can't use Roman's Chelsea. You can't. Roman example is void because they're not building the squad in the same way. So for you to say if they're sticking with the young player approach, but they can also continue to sack managers, you've got to provide, for your argument to hold any validity, any logical sense, you've got to provide examples of where that has worked. That's how debates and arguments work. And we're not, listen, none of us on here are saying 100% it can't. What we're saying is we can't think of one where it has worked. So therefore, we're questioning it. Come on now. But obviously, you know better because it's waffle. Show us where we're wrong. And I guarantee, I can't speak for everyone else on here. I'll change my mind. But you need to show me where it's wrong. You need to educate me, bro. You can't just say, waffle. That's not an argument.
I mean, as well, most successful projects are done by sticking with a key person throughout.
Yeah,
so
but you also
I don't think it's necessarily mental to say that most successful projects need to stick by a manager. I think Maresca should go, but I don't think Chelsea can go back to the approach they had under Abramovich, where it's every 2 years sack a manager, every 2 years sack. We didn't win sack the manager, because you don't have a. The difference with Chelsea under Abramovich was they had a world-class squad. They had Drogba, they had Lampard, they had Teddy, they had Carvalho. They had a core that was there
leaders
throughout. They had players that were there throughout. So managers came into a stable environment. Managers coming into this Chelsea team need to provide the stable environment. If you're coming in with basically a gun to your head, where if you don't win the league in 2 years, you're gone. That's not an opportunity to build a stable environment. That's not the way Chelsea want to go with the minute.
Great point.
But I think that Chelsea can go back to that model if the ownership is willing to operate like Roman was in terms of spending money on these big players. Then you can go back to that kind of model.
But they're not, though.
That's where you're right. I don't disagree with you. If they go out this summer and let's all just be objective about the names I'm giving, because we don't need to start a thread debate about that. But let's say they go out and buy Gyökeres, they go out and get Wirtz, they go out and buy Edison and Bruno Guimaraes for the middle, and they go. Van Dijk leaves Liverpool and they sign him. But I'm creating a picture here. Say they go and do that, and that's their core plus the quality youngsters they've got. Then I think you're right, Will. But that's what they have. They have to have a squad that has that level or better core to do what Roman did, because that's what Roman operated with. We've seen, look at Pep. I think we'd all agree the greatest manager of his generation. Look at how his system, look at the flaw in his system and the holes in the team when he doesn't have the right level of personnel. So if you look at the way Roman operated works, yes, if you have that level of player in that club and in that system, in that core. So yeah, I totally agree. This here from Halls Bleeds Red, he says it isn't, but this isn't the Chelsea way. If the manager doesn't do well, you sack him. That's the only way things. Sorry, that's the only thing that Clear Lake took from the Roman era. Ronin here says the style of play was not the same. Tom, talking about last season.
I disagree in the sense of the second half. The first half of the season, yes, Chelsea barely had a style of play in the first half of the season. I'm talking about the final 4 months. You could see what was coming, and yes, Maresca's tried to change things. Yes, he's inverted the fullback and this, that, and the other. But the principles were the same. And if you are playing, if you have the key principles with one manager, and you bring another manager in who shares similar principles, you will get a similar level of performance for a certain amount of time because it's muscle memory.
Yeah,
and it's what they've been doing.
I agree. This here from Nick, who's a Chelsea fan. He says, we need to remember Poch didn't want to work with this board at the end. We need to stop talking about him. It's pointless. Enzo, the board need criticism. There's a great bit of truth to that. There was a falling out. What I would say, Nick, is that some people don't believe either that part of the briefing or the element of he was sacked for being the top 4 comment as well. And I think that's what is in people's minds. It's the changing of the message as an example. But listen, I do think the Poch conversation is getting to a point where it does need to end. And you are right that the manager, the board do need criticism. Didn't they do that with Kai and Timo?
Yeah, but it wasn't just Kai. It wasn't just Kai Havertz and Timo Werner. You go back to that summer, they bought in Eduard Mendy. They bought in Thiago Silva.
Yeah.
They bought in like 6 or 7. But that and you look at the year after under Tuchel, it was inconsistent because it wasn't the same thing as the pre-Abramovich years. What I'm saying about the older Abramovich years, Frank Lampard played under how many different Chelsea managers? John Terry played under how many different Chelsea managers? That core stuck together for years. A world-class group of 5 players stuck together for years.
And they could win games on their own, regardless of what manager was there. And that's the difference. That's literally the difference. They could come together, rally the troops in and say, we're going to win this game, like no matter who was in charge. And I think a lot of the Chelsea fans now, they care more about whether they're going to get bantered for it's going to take a longer period of time than what exactly their club needs. Like, yeah, you're going to get bantered and we're going to pile on the banter. Of course we are. But the reality is there's no quick fix here. You got to be patient now. That's the direction that you have to take.
Just on that point as well, it's also a different era. There's not many sides, like Real Madrid's one of the few outliers. There's not many sides who can just rock up with a load of elite players and they just like basically coach themselves, as we say. Football's evolved. There's very few teams that can do that anymore.
You're right. Most clubs keep hold of it. You look at the teams now. Newcastle got money, so maybe that's not the greatest example, but we'll use them for this case in point. Look at the players at Bournemouth. Look at the players at Forest. Look at the players at Newcastle. Just to name 3 clubs, and there'll be others. 20 years ago, those players are being taken by Man United, by Chelsea, by Arsenal, by Liverpool in the summer. And it happened on a consistent basis. They would lose their better players. Because of the EPL money that's now comes in, because of Champions League money that's given out to these European clubs, people can hold on to their players a lot easier now than they did 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. And also, Roman's first 10 years, let's not forget, he operated in a world where no PSR existed, no FFP. He could spend what he wanted. You know, they went out and just, Scott Parker had a good 6 months, bang, massive fee. Right, Sean Wright Phillips, bang. They just bought anything that moved. They just bought it in the hope that it would be success. And they bought a lot of great players, and they could never spend like that again now. So again, saying do the Roman way is almost impossible with PSR and FFP. It's just not doable, and you have to remember all of that context, I think. Speaking of transfer windows, this weekend we saw Liverpool, I felt outclassed really Manchester City in many ways. And the question that I have, and it isn't loaded, so I don't have an answer myself. It's a genuine question point. City spent 200 million euros in this window, and there was an expectation for there to be marked improvement. Have we seen it? And if so, if not, what are the excuses for it now?
City have definitely gotten better. Yeah, 100%. The main player for me is Nico. He was obviously he's going to be a temporary Rodri replacement. When Rodri comes back into the side, he'll be playing alongside him. But yeah, there's 100% been an improvement. Obviously, there are still issues at City. Those issues aren't going to change just because you've signed a midfielder. The whole midfield needs to be rebuilt. You can't rebuild a midfield with just one signing. We need Rodri to return, of course, next season, and we'll probably need to sign another midfielder in the summer as well, because I expect, Gundogan, There's Kevin De Bruyne might be going, Kovacic might be going, Bernardo Silva, Nunes, etc. So the reason why it has resulted in like an overnight transformation is because one player does not a rebuild make, essentially. I would still contend that City have actually looked a bit better in the past few weeks. A couple outliers, obviously, that Real Madrid away, horror. No idea what we were doing there in terms of the setup. But in the game against Liverpool, I don't know what Tom thinks, but for example, that was one of our better performances this season. And I know we lost 2-0 at home, but blah, 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 blah. But it is the best team in the world that you're up against right now. I think that's safe to say, Liverpool. And I felt that, and again, we did shoot ourselves in the foot again, and Liverpool were very clinical, and they were fantastic from a defensive perspective in that second half. But in the first half in particular, I was quite content with how City played overall. Again, I appreciate we were 2-0 down at half time, but such is the poor performances from City this season. We can even think of the reverse fixture at Anfield, for example. We couldn't even get out of our own defensive thirds. There was no, and on the very rare occasion that we did, it was like Nunes was the only option out on the left side. So for me, there's quite a big improvement, to be honest with you. And if anyone was thinking there was going to be an overnight fix or hoping for an overnight fix, that was never going to happen unless we signed 3 midfielders of the correct quality. Like if we brought in Nico and I don't know, Bruno Guimaraes, for example, then maybe that could have happened. But no, I've been quite happy with the new sign. I don't know what everyone else thinks. I think the new signings are a bit start, especially Kusanov. He's looked really good. Nico, I've touched on him. And Marmoush still yet to properly find his feet, but I think the signs there have been promising. Obviously got a hat trick. I've been more than happy with the signings, to be honest with you.
I think City going out there and doing the 200 million euros this window is kind of they're pretty much going to write this season off, get top 4, try and win the FA Cup. But the fact they've brought in 3 or 4 players and bed them in now, so that when
it's like a pre-season.
Yeah, exactly. So when the summer comes around, and you're probably talking about 10 to 12 players could potentially be leaving City. The goalkeeper situation is going to be interesting. Who's the number 1 going into next season? Guardiola's got time to work with these players. I know there isn't as much of games come thick and fast, and you was in a lot of competitions. But I think if Haaland would have played yesterday, that's a completely different game for me. And if Haaland plays against Spurs on Wednesday, I think you could have a strong end to the season. You've only really got the FA Cup, which is this weekend, and then I think the next fixture is April, and then before you know it, we're at the final. I don't think City played bad at all yesterday, and I think Liverpool they're one of the best counter-attacking teams in the world. They can change up, they can press the life out of you. They're so good at keeping the ball in midfield, and they've got world-class players. Losing to Liverpool right now is no shame. That scoreline. Don't get me wrong. Your wingers as well. Doku and Savinho were cooking the fullbacks. Like I said to you before we went live, Doku got past Trent 11 times.
I hear what you're saying, Henry, but on the other side, are you saying that Pep Guardiola's completely wrote off the season and he just tried new things between now and the end of the season? I think so, yeah.
Well, they can't win the league. They're not in the Champions League. They're not in the League Cup. They've only got the FA Cup to play for. There's a good enough group of players to still get top 4. Well, it could be top 5 this season, depending on how the other 3 get on. I think this is the time now where they have actually got a few games to start experimenting things. He's changing things. He doesn't look as stressed out on the touchline as he was maybe 5 or 6 games ago. He's not scratching the living daylights out of his head. And
yeah, but the thing is, though, Henry, I don't agree with you
because he realizes he lost the league. I guess he's not.
Yeah, but exactly. So now's the time where he can change things. What are City going to be like if Haaland is injured? And you saw that yesterday.
Henry, if you're a City fan, and you're coming up against Liverpool at home, I mean, they look worse than Aston Villa did midweek. They're supposed to be their quote unquote rivals over the last few years. Wouldn't you expect to see a little bit more fight from that City team? I know Robin said he believes that they played better, but I just didn't see.
They were good until the final third because they don't have anyone in the box. Marmoush is trying to find his feet. The wingers did their job. They got past the fullback. Wentz put a ball in the box, but there's no one in there because they don't have Haaland. And I honestly believe if Haaland would have played yesterday, Liverpool may still have won, but City definitely score 100%. The amount of times Savinho,
I don't think City score even if Haaland's playing yesterday.
even
I
if
think
Haaland, the amount of times they got passed.
and that's I'm not
no.
using this as a City bad thing because I do think City done a lot of right things yesterday. I just thought yesterday was one of the best defensive performances you'll see a team put in all season. We funneled City into the areas where we wanted them. We limited certain players getting on the ball in dangerous areas, and we waited to pounce on the counter attack. That was what we done well. I don't think City were horrendous. I simply think we played better yesterday than we did against Aston Villa midweek. And also, Pep is just trying shit, for lack of a better term. He's figuring out what he's going to do next year. He's figuring out what the next iteration of City is going to be like. And he's figuring out which players are going to be a part of that. Hence why today there was a story that came out that the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, Jack Grealish, Bernardo Silva, Ilkay Gundogan, John Stones, Ederson, they've all been told to do one because they're not part of his long-term plans.
Oh yeah,
that's what Pep's figuring out now. What does Man City 2.0 in my eyes look like? And I think it's going to look a lot more direct in nature. I think you're going to see Haaland being used a lot more in general play, use his frame to play off of with likes of Marmoush and Foden and Savio in terms of a team and a bit more counter-attack.
On that, it's a great point. It's a brilliant segue into my next question. Pep has spoken publicly about the evolution of football. It's become more direct, less sort of possession-based football. You've alluded to the fact that he's doing that. There's a few comments we've had come in where people are saying he's building there's a comment that came in here I want to put up to show, maybe I didn't star it. Sorry, I must have not pressed the star button on the comment. I apologize. But suggesting that he's building a new style of play. Do we think Pep is going to be able to get a team, maybe not a four-peat level, treble winning level, because I think that's a ridiculous standard to set, considering how historic, only the second team ever in English football to do a treble, first team ever to do a four-peat in like the post-war era. But do you think Pep's going to be able to build a team that can dominate leagues, playing in a style of football that he hasn't really played before? Do we think Pep's got the ability and the makeup to almost reinvent himself as much as Manchester City?
He has, but I just don't think he's motivated enough to do it at City, personally.
I don't think Pep Guardiola is building the next City team for himself.
Yeah.
I think Pep Guardiola is building a squad for the next manager to come in. I think he's doing what Jurgen Klopp done last year, where he spends a year or two with the new players, getting them adapted to the philosophy and the ideas, and then the next hungry manager comes in and takes over from him.
Because he's not got a motivation to go for another rebuild.
But who is that next guy who comes in? Like, just
we don't need to worry about that, Henry. We don't need to worry about that.
It's hard to say what football is going to look like in 2 years' time.
Yeah.
I get the feeling though, if Real Madrid for whatever reason don't grab Xabi Alonso next year, City will go all out for him.
Yeah, I mean possibly, but the thing is though, I don't agree that he's building the. Well, I was saying I don't believe that he's building the squad for the next manager. I don't think Pep cares about who the next guy that comes in is. I think Pep's more so worried about saving his legacy, because things aren't looking. I feel like that would be
chill.
Yeah, look at how people are talking about Pep right now because of him having a little downfall.
Most people are idiots, Will. We don't care what they think.
Pep Guardiola won two
Guys, let's not do that. This is Football Terrace. Let Will finish his point, and then we'll challenge it. Let's not all shout over him, please.
Yeah, so I'm not saying that the City board are not making signings, also keeping in the next manager in mind. Of course, they would have to because, Pep is closer to leaving than he is to staying. So that would make sense. But I'm saying Pep Guardiola, I highly doubt that he cares about who the next guy comes in and he's worried about building the squad for him because I think Pep is trying to figure out how can he get back so that when he leaves, he's leaving at the top, right? Not, oh, well, look, we came fifth. Like, let's say next season is his last and they come fifth. Oh, well, Pep came fifth, but at least he left the squad in a decent spot for the next manager to come in. I just don't think that he's right about that. As I said, I think that he's just trying to get his legacy back intact because a lot of people are talking about Pep nowadays like he's a fraud. So I feel like he does care about that too, Donovan, because you can tell how he responds to stuff
Like-
like when no other team will do 4 in a row, and like he cares. that he's getting
Will,
the
can I just
finishes.
defend
Yeah,
Pep here? As a Man United fan, I'm
Yeah.
going to defend Pep.
Wow, this is
I
wild.
understand the angle you're coming from. However, I would reword it. I don't think he has got to defend his legacy. Pep's legacy will remain no matter what happens from. If he never wins another league title again, his legacy and what he's achieved, I think, still remains.
And
All the
of
great
course.
things, that Jose did have not been undone because of the last, say, 5-6 years. He's been at a slightly lower level of team. The same as Phil Foden having one poor season doesn't undo all the great campaigns he's had. What I do think Pep rebuilding a City team, going on to win 2 or 3 more major trophies does, it answers the question about rebuilding one of his own great teams. And I don't think that's about saving legacy. This could potentially enhance his legacy further for me. And I'm really intrigued about it. I hope he doesn't do it. And the reasons are because, if he does that, it's another kind of notch on the bedpost towards being the greatest manager of all time. But I'm intrigued to see what he does. And should the summer signings this year work, especially, by the way, if he changes his style of football. So if he goes to becoming a more direct manager, that for me, that doesn't just show what a great coach he is. It shows what a great manager he is. The fact that he can yield on principles that have been in play for such a long time. I think that in the terms of the GOAT conversation, puts him onto a different level and puts him into a category that only 2 or 3 other managers sit in, because he's then starting to almost, and I don't know what I don't know what the right word for it is, but it's like Inter era. And I don't mean Inter Milan. And there's probably a better phrase. Someone who's a better orator than me could come up with a better word.
Generations. He goes from generation to generation.
Yeah, it's if football changes and he changes with it, as an example, I'm intrigued to see what he does. So I don't think it's about legacy saving. I think it's about more legacy building, in my opinion, for Pep.
Well, let me ask you this, Will. Obviously, Jurgen Klopp left Liverpool last season. Arne Slot took over, and Arne Slot looks on course to win the Premier League this season. But he's done it with a squad that was entirely, bar Federico Chiesa, if you want to count him, but he's done it with a squad that was entirely brought in and developed and played under Jurgen Klopp. Do you think Arne Slot winning the Premier League this season with that squad enhances Jurgen Klopp's legacy or takes away from it?
Takes away from it.
Takes away from it. So you don't see
really,
the novelty in Jurgen Klopp building the squad for the next manager, but leaving at the right time to make sure that the manager's not taking over a situation which the pressure's too high and the squad's not stable and the expectations swallow and the club starts to spiral. Do you not see the level of
but I don't
what Klopp done?
Yeah, I think I cut out there, or like I was frozen or something.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
I think the internet tried to save you still.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so the reason why I think that it takes away from Klopp's legacy is because Klopp was only able to win it one time, right? So now that you had Slot come in, who a lot of people expected Liverpool to fall off, right? Like nobody expected like Liverpool to be where they are right now, unless
I didn't expect them to win, but I didn't expect them to fall off.
Well, no, but in terms of so when I say fall off, right? So for example, I thought that Liverpool were done, like being actual contenders. I still
but you also wanted Ancelotti sacked, Will. So that.
Well, I mean, let me finish. I still. So I still thought that they would finish 3rd this season, but I didn't think that they would be in like a title race for a majority of the season. Like that's what I mean in terms of like fall off. Whereas in underneath, like Jurgen Klopp, we're used to seeing them in the title race for a majority of his tenure there. So now I think with Slot coming in and with these same players going on to now win the title and to see how he's been able to manage this team, maybe you can say a little bit better than what Klopp did in his last season, I do think that it hurts Klopp's legacy a bit because of how fast Slot is now starting his career at Liverpool. But that doesn't mean that that Klopp should not still be talked about highly because of what he did to get the squad to this point. But I think it does hurt him a little bit, 100%.
All right, Will. I've got a question for you, Will.
Okay, yeah, hold on, just real quick, bro. Like when the next guy comes in and when he's doing better right away, I think it does kind of hurt if you didn't end on the best note. That's all. Go ahead.
But maybe the best note, maybe not. But how many managers come into a situation that Slot comes into, where The whole midfield has been rebuilt for you. You still have title winners in your squad. You've just challenged for a title the previous year. Like how many managers walk into a situation like that?
Well, I mean, not many. It's a very specific scenario. But the thing
Yeah,
is,
and the reason I asked you that is because
Yeah.
that's why I think this league title enhances Klopp's legacy because of that. There's not
because look at last season, right? Like Liverpool, the second half of the season, and I mean, like Tom could probably tell me a little bit more, but Liverpool were in the title race, and then was it the loss to was it West Ham, Tom?
We lost to...
Or was it Crystal Palace?
Everton. Was it Everton?
It was Palace. We lost to Palace, Everton, drew with United, and drew with West Ham in like a 6-game stretch.
Yeah, so like Liverpool were on a good run, and then they ended up kind of falling off second half, right, towards the end. And you could say that that's because of Klopp's mismanagement of the team, right? Like the tactics weren't necessarily working. And the thing is, but Liverpool were creating a lot of chances. They weren't putting it away. But it does look like underneath Slot, they look a lot more organized, right? It's the same group of players. It's like Tom said, all that he brought in was Chiesa, and he probably didn't even want the guy. So it's the same group of players, but yet they look a lot better this season than they did last season. And it's not just because everybody else is falling off. It's because I think that Slot's in-game management and his system makes them look more compact.
Well, do you think
that is an indictment on
Klopp's
Klopp?
coaching is so you think Slot's coaching is more of a reason for Liverpool winning this league title than Jurgen Klopp building the squad?
Yes and no. I don't think it's black and white. Like yes, but at the same time, no, because
Good
it's
answer,
like what
Will.
Kunle
Good
said.
answer.
Slot did come into a team that had Van Dijk, that had Mo Salah, right? You got Trent, you got like all these other good players there. So he did come into a very good situation. It's not like Liverpool needed a rebuild, but I just think he's done a fantastic
we
job.
didn't need that though because Jurgen Klopp had took that on the year before. If if Jurgen Klopp had left after the year we finished 5th, Arne Slot would have walked into a side that instead of having Dominic Szoboszlai, Ryan Gravenberch, Alexis McAllister, Wataru Endo, a really developed Curtis Jones, he would have walked into a side that had 34-year-old Jordan Henderson, 31-year-old Fabinho, 29-year-old Keita, 36-year-old Milner, and 28-year-old Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Yes. And this is why it goes to that question about I see a lot of people troll Arsenal and banter Arsenal with like what phase is Slot in. Well, whatever phase FSG are in from when they took over to now, so what, phase 27 or something, right? That's where they are. And that's why I think when it comes to both Pep and Klopp in this conversation, yes, they play a part in the squad build because they'll sign off on certain players. Maybe they've chased a few of the individuals or put names forward. But this is about your club being run well at that level. And the one thing I don't think City will do, City won't just buy players for short-termism to help Pep. They will also make a fundamental decision of what is best for us as a football club for the next 5 years with this signing, with whether Pep's here or not. I think Liverpool have made those decisions. I don't think everything's done right. We've got, you know what, we'll buy this player here, you know, and put him on big wages to help Klopp get over the line, or Pep get over the line and win one more title before they leave, even though we might then be stuck with a aging player who's fading on stupid money for 4 years. They won't. Those clubs won't do it, in my personal opinion, because they think beyond the manager who is currently in the dugout. And that is how the best clubs in the modern day era are run. So I don't think it takes away from Klopp's legacy. I don't think it takes away from Klopp's legacy in any way, shape, or form that Slot's doing well this year. Equally, I don't think it takes away from Slot that he walks into a good situation. That, for me, is brilliant decision making from FSG. Doesn't mean they're perfect at everything. It means that Slot is a manager who can, because again, if he was a bust, doesn't matter how well run Liverpool are, it wouldn't be working if he was bad man manager. His tactics, in-game decisions were poor. It shows how brilliant Slot is. It shows what a brilliant manager and leader Klopp was, but it shows how well they've run the squad and how good their due diligence was in terms of the replacement. And I think City are going to do similar. They're going to buy players that are going to help this team under Pep get better. Maybe they will change the style of football to adapt to the ever-changing landscape of the game. When it comes to the replacement manager, it will be someone that can pick up that squad and go, I can work with that day one. You might need a player or two because everybody typically does, but there won't be the need. It's why Amorim didn't go to Liverpool. not because he's a bad coach, but Amorim would have required Liverpool to dig everything up and start again. And with how close they were, what's the point? And I just think that's what City are going to do. So I don't think it's damning in any way, shape, or form for Pep Guardiola. I don't think he's trying to save any of his legacy. I think he will help the club rebuild, but that's because he has a boss at the club, and that boss is going to demand that they do that at the same time. It can't
But
just
do you
be
think
about
that
Pep's
that's
legacy.
giving too much credit then to like Klopp and Pep saying that, oh, like they rebuilt? Because like when Tom was listing off all those players that they replaced, you kind of needed to do that anyways for Klopp. Not even to think about the next guy. Like Klopp just needed some new signings.
Yeah, but it's the stability of it.
So sorry, can I just ask Nobbins a question on this? So when it comes to, unless I'm completely mistaken, because I've heard Pep say this, and you're a City fan, you know more than me. Like Pep isn't running the recruitment side of things. It's very much, he might suggest players and positions they need, but when it comes to the players that you sign, you have a whole team of people that do that at the club and support Pep in that way, right?
Yeah, of course. Like there are specific signings from our sporting director, yeah. And one of the reasons why like Pep signs an extension is because of our terrible run that we went on. So he actually wanted to stay at the club to sort of like, in his words, quote, make things right. So he didn't want to leave and have the next manager inherit, you know, this incredibly aging side. He wanted to be.
Sounds awfully similar, Nobbins.
Sorry.
Why would he want to do that, right?
Why would he want to do that? Because Jurgen Klopp was going to leave at the end of 22-23, but he said, I can't leave the squad and the team in that position.
When was his contract?
No, he was just going to walk. He was just going to walk. He felt he was done, but he stayed on one more year to help through the transition and to make sure that
But when was that contract up?
That contract was up in 2026, I think.
Okay, reasonable. I don't know. Pep's always gone on records and said how he's always got a contract to fulfill and how he will do that. I'm of the view that it's a twofold thing. You know, like people were saying, you know, is he building the squad for himself? Is he building it for the next manager? I think both things can be true. I think that he's rebuilding the squad. Obviously, the age is getting younger. We have one of the oldest squads in the Premier League. So I think it's twofold. He's building a squad for himself, but he's also acknowledging that this is probably his last contract. So he wants to ensure that whoever inherits the side walks into a good team rather than one which requires, you know, open heart surgery or whatever term you want to use, you know, with like the one he inherited, basically, which required a mental summer window, you know, when you've got, of course, there were some fantastic players. I think our average fullback age was about 32. It needed like a lot of investment put into it. And I don't think he wants a similar prospect for whoever walks in following him. Yeah. So I think both things are correct.
So I do have just like one last question, just like on like this kind of topic. So, and it's for the panel. I don't care who answers. So if Slot wins the Prem and the UCL this season, hypothetically, let's say he does the double, you don't think that would dim the light from Klopp? In his first season, he comes in. It would
just shine a brighter light on Slot. It wouldn't be like dimming any light on. It would just be a bright light on Slot. It wouldn't change anything that Klopp did. Absolutely, he's a legend and he has a great legacy. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's anything Slot can do in this season to like overshadow.
There's nothing really Arne Slot could do because Jurgen Klopp done a much different thing to what Arne Slot done or has done and could potentially go on to do. Mm-hmm. Arne Slot would deserve all the praise in the world if he goes and does a double in the first season, but there has to be an acknowledgement that he's been put into that position from the foundations left by Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp didn't have to go, but Jurgen Klopp sort of took a step back and realised that I'm probably not the best man for this job. I can I can set the foundations up for the next managers to come in and take over a young, hungry squad that is ready to take that next step. So Arne Slot got the success off the shoulders of what Jurgen Klopp had built. That's why both of them would receive praise. If Jurgen Klopp had left the squad in the state that it was in 2022 with an old Henderson and an old Fabinho and an injured Keita and an old Milner, and Arne Slot came in, ripped everything up, brought all his players in, and then done a double, then yes, that would probably diminish from Jurgen Klopp because he left the club in a bad spot, and then Arne Slot stepped in, rejigged everything in a year and went the whole way. Jurgen Klopp left the club in such a stable situation.
Yeah, I think Slot has got to win a fair amount more than Klopp to surpass him. It can't be equal or slightly more because people will understand that Jurgen Klopp was so fundamental in that in that build as an example. You know, I think if Pep leaves in 2 years, say they win no more league titles, City, but Pep helped build a brilliant team, and the next guy comes in win back-to-back Champions Leagues. I don't think City fans will go, oh, he won 2 Champions Leagues, he's better than Pep. They will understand that Pep put so much into that to make that team that great. So yeah, I think that's a massive part of it. I need to move on. We're going to run out of time. We're going to. Sorry, what were you going to say? Sorry about the comments.
There's a really good comment from Olakunle 007. He said, "Stop this dimming light nonsense." Bob Paisley took over.
Is that your alt?
Shankly, we didn't.
Yeah, we didn't discredit Shankly. No, but this is Ola. This is very, very true, my friend. And I think for me, this is why this kind of talks crazy. I've praised like the handover, and I've had Liverpool fans in my message and chat going, "Don't you dare take away from Slot." It's nothing to do with that. It's praising a different part of your football club, and it's taken nothing away from managers whatsoever. But it's just the truth of the situation. Nick here says, "Poch in May. It's not only if the owners are happy, because you need to ask us also, because maybe we are not happy and we need to split everyone end the Poch narrative and focus on the problems now," is what Nick says here. Slot is definitely getting more out of the players. Yeah, but Ronan, Klopp explained that, and I'm going to defend him here as a United fan. He said he ran out of energy, and it makes sense. That doesn't take away from Jurgen Klopp. What would have been the worst thing for him to have done is carry on taking the money and stay another year when he's got less energy, and another year with less energy. You know, there's a manager in North London that should have probably walked out 4, 5, 6 years before he did, and he stayed on too long. He's done the absolute right thing, in my personal opinion. My granddad still holds Shankly above Paisley. I would say most Liverpool fans I've ever met put Shankly above Paisley, even though Paisley won more, because of what Shankly, the foundation that he built, you know. And look, clubs do it for different reasons, but that's certainly there. And I think you're right there, Sean. Obviously, Liverpool, they've got 11 points clear. We spent a bit of time talking about Slot there. How are Arsenal going to respond to this, Kunle? And I don't just mean for the rest of the season. What are Arsenal going to do in the summer, especially with Liverpool maybe losing a star or two? What is Arsenal's response to this going to be? They're being called bottle jobs, and for more than one reason: bottling the game, bottling the windows, not spending enough money. What do you think the response? Not what you want. What do you think Arsenal will do in response to missing out on another league title 3 years running now?
You know what? The only thing that would make sense is the fact that they withheld money in January. They go crazy in the summer. Like I'm talking like, I don't know what the PSR thing is, but I'm saying 250M, 300M. That I can see them doing that.
I think Cunley, I think you can spend around 200 million gross. I think so. We're talking a lot of money. Yeah, I think that's right.
That's all that has to happen, because it doesn't make sense. I think them telling Arteta that we're not buying you any players in January is like, look, we've got a big plan for summer. We've got maybe the sporting director coming in then, and you'll have a big budget to go at it. I personally don't think Arteta's the guy that should get that budget, but that's for another stream, I guess. But I think we go big in the summer. Personally, that's the only thing that makes sense.
Arteta out
for this season. Like, look, I'm not gonna say Arteta out, but Terry knows my stance, because at the end of the day, technically we're still in the Champions League. So until that changes, he might as well stick around, innit? So other than that, I said I wanted a major, or this guy has to walk, and not because I don't think he's done great things. Yeah, he's done great things, and he's left. What if he walks, which I believe he should be the big man and walk at the end of the season. Don't wait to get sacked and all that. Walk at the end of the season, and you've done a great job. Like, I don't think a lot of people didn't even expect him to come in and challenge at any point, and he's done it. So give another manager a go. He's not the only one that deserves a chance. He's put the next manager in better stead for his tenure. Just not like Klopp did for Slot, but he's put him in a better situation. And if he gets a big transfer budget in the summer, then who knows what we can.
But Kunle, why would he walk? Why would he walk? I think that he's living the dream at Arsenal.
He's not gonna walk.
I know he's not. Hey, Will. I know he's not gonna walk, but I think he should do the right thing and realize this might be too big for me. I need to go and learn some other things, because he does some really weird things. I mean, Terry, remember last week we talked about the Marino situation. Should he start as number 9? And I said no. And the reason why the Mourinho thing worked in that game was we needed a goal, 20 minutes to go. He came on and it was running and we were chasing the goal. That didn't mean because it worked for 20 minutes, start him from the start, because he was a passenger. He was another referee in the game, like he normally is. And then we did nothing.
Yeah, but you're right. Maybe bringing him on against tired legs, 20 minutes to go, they don't know where to pick him up. It's a different situation. And I get the Arteta. I get the whether. Well, that's another show for another day, whether people think he should stay or go. Because what I want to get to is what do we think Arsenal are going to do? As opposed to our personal opinions. Henry, what do you think Arsenal will do in response to missing out on this title this summer? Will it be Šeško's and potential? Or will it be Osimhen's and sort of Nico Williams, players that have delivered at the highest level already, delivered league titles, delivered international trophies? What direction do you think Arsenal will go this summer?
I think that question will depend on who they appoint as their new director of football. You know, Gaspar leaving just before the transfer window kind of changes their strategy. It's very, very hard to go and get an Alexander Isak out of Newcastle in January. You know, Nico Williams had a release clause absolutely on fire over the weekend, by the way, Bilbao. There was players out there. There's no excuse not to go out there and sign a player in January. What I will say is I think Arteta will be at Arsenal a long time. I think he'll see out this contract, and I think he'll sign another contract because the Cronkies, they love this guy. Whether he is the guy to win a league title is a different debate. What I think they will do is I think they will go all out for a number 9. I don't think, as it stands on what's the date today, the 24th of February, that it will be Isak in the summer. I think that one is, and I just don't.
Too much for us, just for one.
Yeah, I think if you've got a budget of £200 million, you're not going to spend 140 or 150 pounds of it on Alexander Isak, knowing the fact you still need a winger that can score goals, knowing the fact that you still haven't sorted out who's going to play 6 if Partey goes, knowing the fact that there still isn't significant cover if Gabriel or Saliba get injured. I don't want to hear about no Tomiyasu, no Ben White, no Kivior. There still isn't significant cover. You know, on the right-hand side, what happens if Saka gets another injury? We don't know what he's going to be like coming back from his hamstring injury. The response should be go out and sign. This is just my opinion before anyone jumps on my back. Go out there and bring a forward in like Brian and Mbeumo and bring a number 9 in. Someone that can, I'll rate him, bro. I think he would be.
I like how Henry asked to finish, and then the first thing he says,
was like,
no.
I also think Footy Corner TV, Wanyeri has saved Arsenal probably 100 million in the summer as well, because he will come in and create. The big question mark is going to be if they bring in the number 9 and they bring in the winger, which we all know they need. What happens to Martin Odegaard? This should be spoken about a lot more.
What do you mean by that, Henry?
He's the captain. Nothing happens to him.
Yeah. I was about to say he's not going nowhere. He's not going anywhere.
This is just my opinion. I don't think he should be the guy leading Arsenal going forward in terms of this captaincy role. I don't think he does enough in the final third when it comes down to creativity.
He's a passenger.
Exactly. I think Arsenal need to look at that position as well. I think maybe playing Rice and Odegaard in the 8 role, you know, helping with the press. They need a creative player that when it comes down to the final third can make that killer pass. Odegaard doesn't do it. And if you bring in someone like an Isak, who's feeding them the ball other than Saka?
Yeah, but Henry, let's be very honest, right? We know that Arsenal aren't going to go out there and get a striker and a winger and some of these other positions. Like, we know that that's what they need and that's what they should do, right? But more than likely, what's going to be the response will be Šeško. And I think it will just be Šeško as like that big attacking signing. I don't think that it'll be like a Šeško with the Nico Williams. I feel like it'll be one or the other. You either get a left winger or you'll get a striker. I just don't think that Arsenal will go out there and get both, just because I think any confidence that anybody had in the Arsenal board, it should have ended after that summer window, because we could have had the same convo last season, right? Arsenal should have done a lot more in the summer, but instead you sign Calafiori, you bring in Raheem Sterling on deadline day, and then you also sign like the goalkeeper. Point is, you guys didn't do enough. Mikel Merino, we all knew that he wasn't even the best midfielder from Sociedad. So I just don't see how anybody can say that what they think Arsenal will do is go sign Isak for 150 million. And then they think that they'll also go spend 60 million or 70 million for a Nico Williams. Like, we all know that, like, that's not going to happen.
I hear
It'll
you,
be
but I can
Sesko.
see us doing. I can see us doing a Nico Williams and a Sesko. Zubimendi's coming in the summer as well, so you never know.
Yeah, see, but the thing is, though, I can't see both. But I think, like, those would be two good signings because you do need both of them. So, like, it makes sense.
We can get them both, though. That's the
No,
thing.
Even if
Boy,
they sign
Isak, I think Isak's off the table completely, 100%.
But of course,
you can
Arsenal
go out
can
and get
do both.
Osimhen, Nico Williams, and Zubimendi. That changes everything, and we're losing some players as well. I think Partey's probably going to go. Jorginho's going to go. I still don't get the Marino thing, to be honest. I still don't get it, but.
Well, yeah. So the thing is, like, of course, Arsenal can get both, right? Arsenal you guys have money to spend. It's like what Nabin said. You guys can spend things like 200 M's gross. So the money is there. But the question is, like, when has the board just ever shown that level of ambition to go get two players like that you would definitely need? I just don't see it happening. I think it'll be one big money signing, which would be Sesko for like 70. And then I think you'll, spend some money just like on like lesser players who aren't going to really come in and start per se. Like, that's.
But they need win now players. They need like at least two.
Yeah,
but they need that last summer though.
I don't think that happens, Will, personally. Just the fact that I think the board are a little bit embarrassed of the whole Edu thing and how what we've done with how bad we've been in the window recently. I think they go big in the summer. Obviously,
so like, how much money do you think that they spend?
I'm saying 250 M. Don't quote
250.
me on that.
I mean, all right. I mean,
250
I feel like that would be
the three players that I listed is like what? Osimhen, I don't know, like 60 M or something like what? I don't know what the quote is on that. Nico Williams, isn't the release clause like 40 something, 45?
Nah, I think it. Not well. He signed a new deal. I think his release clause is now 100, but maybe you get him for like less. Yeah, like he signed. I believe he signed a new deal last summer, and then they gave him the number 10.
Nah, not last summer, because coming into January we were talking about that release clause again. So I think
he signed it last December. I think it's €275,000 a week. He's on ridiculous wages.
Yeah, his wages.
I think the release clause is still there.
Okay.
And then Zubimendi for what, 50 mil? That's like 160 mil spent on that. We still got some change there, bro. So
but you don't think that you're thinking a little bit too ambitious in terms of what the club will do? Because I think that's what Terry was saying. Like, what do we genuinely believe
just to break it down? Sorry. So just to break it down, right? So in the 21-22 season, they spent 167. In the 22-23 season, where Jesus and that came in, it was 186 million. In the 22-24 season with Declan Rice, they spent 235 million. So I don't think it's a crazy estimate to throw 200. If you throw 200 million in, I don't think that's. Well, they've shown they've done that. The only time that in the last few years where they've been a lot less was this summer just gone, where it was 108 million. And I think that if you turn that 108 million into 180 million by throwing in a Gyökeres or an Osimhen, I actually think we're having a different conversation about Arsenal's season right now as well. So I don't think Arsenal need mass surgery. I think they need, we're talking earlier about Chelsea, just going by 2 or 3 established players to get you to that. I think that's where Arsenal are. You throw in Zubimendi, Nico Williams, and Osimhen, just to name 3. If they were in your squad now, you're not 11 points off Liverpool. Liverpool are where they are. I don't buy into this notion from some gooners that's quite disrespectful to Liverpool that you're only top because we've had these problems. I still think Liverpool have this amount of points regardless of Arsenal. But I think Arsenal were closer, maybe even slightly ahead. You can make those arguments. Liverpool are where they are. I think we'd be looking at Arsenal's chances of winning the Champions League so different if those 3 players were currently in Arsenal's squad. So for me, if they don't do that in the summer, that's what I think they'll do, something along those lines. It may not be those 3 players. And that's what people will now do. It's not going to be those 3. Okay, but I think they'll go big as well.
Well, but then
200 million I can see us spending 200 million plus.
200 million. No, but that's kind of like what I was saying in terms of obviously Arsenal, they do spend money, but I'm talking about just like the big name players. I don't think that they'll get 2 or 3. I think they'll get 1 big name player, and then they'll use the money to kind of like spread on people who are like a little bit lesser than in terms of money wise. Like
That's
that's kind of like where I was thinking about it from.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, and I think they do that. I mean, look, it depends on how good those players are and how they deliver. But I think Arsenal fans, by and large, will be disappointed. Will be disappointed in that. They really, really will. Because it also prolongs a kind of Arteta debate if they scrimp again and they don't quite bring the quality in. Because there'll be some that will, I remember Dan Potts saying at the beginning of the season, as much as I'm scrutinizing Arteta, he goes, I think they've let him down. They haven't bought enough in this summer. They should have spent. And I agree with. Look, Mikel Moreno.
You agree with that, Terry? Though, that they let him down, or I think the choices of signings he made in the summer was wrong.
Yes, but I look at this I look at this twofold. If he only had 108 million euros to spend, one of Calafiore or Marino shouldn't have come into. Remember, one of the 31 million of that was David Raya, right? Your goalkeeper. Yeah, so one of the other two shouldn't have happened. If that's the budget they had, that's where I go to the manager and say, you shouldn't have done that. But
and
for
you get
me,
a better loan than Sterling, surely.
Get a better loan than Sterling. Yes, I agree. But I'm going to another level. I feel like they should have given him more money than that. So for me, it's a case of I don't think he should have been given that choice. I think he should have been. I think he should have got those players that he wanted, and you guys should have gone out and bought. And I don't think it. I know we also had a debate on AFTV. No, you want a striker. I want a goal scorer. The weirdest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah,
Where I get where they're coming from is I don't think it mattered this season whether it was a number 9 or another wide player. They need somebody else that brings goals to that team. They need somebody else. Because again, I look at Liverpool, brilliant team, deserve to be top. My very basic analysis on Liverpool this year is the team has got them top of the league. Mo Salah has put them 11 points clear. Mo Salah's goals, game-changing moments. I just feel he is the one that's helped to create that clear blue water. The team is good enough to be in the title race. Mo Salah has been he's been an alien this season. And I think that Arsenal they're not going to find anyone that can do Salah numbers, in my opinion, because I think there's only a finite amount of those players in the world. But if they had a striker right now that was sitting on 18 league goals or a winger that was on 18 league goals, this situation is very, very different indeed. So I understand that scrutiny, that he made the wrong decision. He deserves to be criticized for it. But I think there's an extra layer here that I think often doesn't get discussed enough. The board didn't do enough in the summer. And when you look at the profit and loss accounts of Arsenal, there's no PSR problems that anyone who understands finances. And I'm not talking about my understanding. I'm talking about the breakdown from experts. No one can see where this problem is. It wasn't like you're a couple of pounds too much and you're going to get a 10-point deduction. You were there or thereabouts. So, yeah, they've got to go big this summer, Arsenal. They have to respond because 3 years on the bounce in a title race is very good for a team who 4 years ago, all the media was scratching out of the top 6, scratching out of the big 6, saying would never get back. It's great. But they've got to start. You've got to strike while the iron is hot. Because you never know the future. You don't know who else is going to come up, how other teams. And I still think next year they go into the season in the top 2, top 3 favourites to win the league. I still think all of us come the end of the summer window will say that somewhere they'll be in everyone's top 3. If they don't do enough though, and they have another season, another summer like last year, there's just no way they're winning the league. Because I think Chelsea City are going to be a better team as an example. I'm intrigued to see what Liverpool do. I'm really intrigued to see what Liverpool do. But what they cannot bet on, Arsenal, is City having a bust summer again and Liverpool losing 3 players and not replacing them. That can't be the strategy. It has to be better than that. Viewers, give us your thoughts and opinions on that. Arteta should not be trusted with a budget. Now, I agree, but no manager should be trusted with a budget. Pep shouldn't be trusted to spend the money by himself. Yeah. We were talking about this earlier. Those clubs typically have people that make those decisions. If Arsenal are trusting Arteta to do it, that's the mistake, not Arteta spending it. The mistake is, right. If I let my daughter use a frying pan with hot oil when she burns herself, it's not because she's clumsy. It's because I'm fucking stupid for letting her do it. Like, it's my fault. That's how I view that. Evening, I think Arsenal need a new captain and it should be Gabriel. Odegaard is not a leader of men. Any sport, your captain is a leader. Odegaard's had a lot of criticism the last few days, Tom, for his leadership. I think it's one open play goal in about 12 months, something along those lines. Mm-hmm. People frustrated with, him not stepping up to take that corner that Raheem Sterling was given. As a captain, do you think he's done enough for Arsenal in this period of adversity?
No. There's 2 types of captains. There's the captain who leads on the pitch, who is loud, who's an organizer, who tells players where to be, who pushes them forward with the energy. And the other type of captain is the guy who leads by example, who might not be loud on the pitch, that they're not, shouting at players and pushing players around or everything, but they're a guy who you turn to when the going's tough and they'll bail you out. They're the guy you turn to when you need a goal and they create it or they score it. Odegaard has been neither. Therefore, he's not been a good captain this season. So, and I don't. He was that at points last year, but it's inconsistent. With the point Arsenal are in, I'm not expecting Martin Odegaard to suddenly turn Mikel Merino into a world beater striker. That's not going to happen. Yeah. But that West Ham game at the weekend, Martin Odegaard could have got Arsenal a goal. He could have stepped up and created or scored a goal for Arsenal, and he didn't. He wilted away. He shied away. He fled from the spotlight, and that's happened too many times. Not just this season, but in his Arsenal career.
He even let Sterling take a free kick, bro. Sterling.
I know. I don't think that was a. The only argument I'll give him is it's not a left-footed free kick from where it is.
It's Sterling, Tom.
But it shouldn't have been Sterling.
Oh, respect Raheem the Dream. Respect him.
But I just don't think. I don't think he's a guy who Arsenal can turn to when the going's tough, when the chips are down, and go, he's going to save me. He's going to bail me out in the big moments against the top opposition. Martin Odegaard's going to stand up and be counted. I can't remember the last time he was that. And if that's your captain,
last season.
Yeah, but what game? I'm talking like top opposition. Big game, big moments. What, we're going Porto in the second leg? That's Captain. That's Captain Odegaard's big moments.
Liverpool at the Emirates last season.
At the Emirates last season, I wouldn't say he was the best player.
Was that when he played basketball, or was that at Anfield?
No, that was at Anfield. The Emirates one, I wouldn't say that was Odegaard. I'd say that was more so. Havertz caused us loads of problems that day.
Yeah, he did.
I wouldn't say that was. I wouldn't say that was an Odegaard type of performance.
I hear you, but I think he controlled the tempo of the second half.
But even then,
even that, I hear what you're saying.
That was a massively weakened Liverpool team. I'm on about when the chips Bayern Munich home and away. Who's the guy? Saka is the guy who steps up in the first.
Tom, do you think he's actually good enough?
Look.
Odegaard's a good player.
I'll be honest.
I think he's upgradable. I think
Martin Odegaard's a good player. Martin Odegaard's a player who you could have in a title-winning team. Martin Odegaard I don't think handles the pressure of captaincy very well.
So, do you strip him as captaincy and give it to Declan Rice?
Look, I don't know if it's that, bro. I don't know if it's that. I just think he's not been the same this season. Like before this period, no one was ever disrespecting Martin Odegaard's game to this extent. This season, though, like I don't even recognize him. He's I really expected him to push on in terms of like as a goal scorer. I expected him to push on from that season where he got 17 goals or whatever. I thought he was going to push on.
There has always been questions about him as captain, though.
Yeah, but not to this extent, though, Tom. I hear you, but certain people are calling him the best.
I agree.
Our rival fans were calling him the best 10 in the league at certain points.
I agree. The question marks about him not being to this extent, but the fact that the question marks have always been there, and the fact that there's always been this concern that at points he's not ready captain, like that to me goes, well, maybe he's not a guy who handles the pressure very well. And when you combine a guy who's not handling pressure of captaincy very well with a guy who's struggling for form and put them together, it's a recipe for disaster. He wilts under everything. Whereas if he doesn't have to worry about that captain's armband, he might be able to just go under the radar a little bit, get away from the spotlight and
weighing him down a bit.
Whereas I think the likes of Rice or a Gabriel might be the kind of guy who thrive off it and take the responsibility and rise up to it.
Look, you might be right there, because even that first season where that title run we had, it was as much as people laughed at him and took the piss. It was a lot. Zinchenko was kind of like the leader that season. Let's keep it.
And Granit Xhaka was the captain.
Yeah, and Xhaka as well. So I kind of hear what you're saying in terms of this captaincy thing. You know, I hear it.
Hear that?
I'm listening to it. I'm not gonna lie.
This year says, like Evra said, Arsenal are Netflix always next year. But yeah, look, there is an element of banter to it. At the same time, if we're gonna be serious about this for a moment and put the banter aside, what are Arsenal gonna do? Okay, because they got not focus on next year and not try and win next year. Like it's what's the alternative to trying next year? Not trying next year. Yeah, I do get it. Liverpool lost to Plymouth. But Man United. Yeah, Man United's offside goal has been spoken about for 2 days. Got spoken about for 2 days. Liverpool getting beaten by bottom of the Championship Plymouth. Got about 10 minutes of coverage. There is so much, and this is what's ironic about it. This is not about Liverpool or Man United for a moment. This is why certain people don't take the FA Cup seriously. More focus on the offside goal than there was one of the most modern, with a modern day great game and a great historic moment got less attention than an offside because they wanted to shit on Man United, and that's shame on the pundits. Shame on the pundits. Here we go again. Where is the clowning question? A player from another team. What about your club? I'm finding it disturbing that it's fine to speak on other clubs. What about yours?
Right, guys, let's just never talk. Right, so Henry, let's talk Tottenham, but no one else allowed to talk Tottenham but Henry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go off camera. Go off camera.
Odd comment. Very odd.
Yeah, it's a very
Weird
odd comment. It's a very, very odd comment.
You should have at least super chatted that, mate. Come on.
Yeah, I put it up.
If you're going to say something stupid, at least give Terry some money. God.
Peak Ramsey over peak Odegaard. Odegaard at his peak, like when he
peak Ramsey was different.
Arsenal. Peak Ramsey was very, very good. I always remember Man United fans at a game though. We were playing Arsenal, and I was going up to the game. We were on the bus on the way up, and someone said, "He's just having like a ricket season, like a season where." And it was only one season where he scored a lot of goals. That one season, and he goes, "I remember someone said it's like Adam Ricketts," and I remember Adam Ricketts had a brilliant year, I think, in the '90s where he scored loads of goals. Very good player there, Ramsey. Ramsey was a very, very good player in his pomp. Gents, thank you all for coming on tonight. I really do appreciate it. We're back tomorrow with some content in the morning, rounding up the news. We were doing straight facts in the afternoon, and then by popular demand, I'm back on the United stand tomorrow evening with Mark Goldbridge, talking all things United. It's why we didn't go into the budget stuff today, because I'm saving myself for that conversation tomorrow on his platform, where me and him massively disagree. So it could be quite a fiery one. So make sure you're tuning in. This is going to redirect you to Don Hassam's channel. So go and support him now. Go and subscribe. Gents, thank you to all the super chatters. You're amazing. All of my subs, I love you to bits. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again soon. Peace.